What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to get into our race day updates for round number 5 at Southwick. So we have some pretty good things to go over today. We're going to go over all the injury updates, some riders that are now out, some that are coming back. We're also going to cover all the little behind the scenes stories that you guys might want to know. And then at the end, we're going to talk about our helmet giveaway. So make sure you stick around for that. If you're not already entered, I will give you guys the information on that as well. Okay, so first thing we got to talk about is going to be our injury updates. Starting out in the 250 class, unfortunately, this week we heard that Cody Schock did break his wrist. So Cody will not be with us this weekend or anytime soon. He's going to have to get surgery on it. Really hate to see that for Cody. He had a great breakout season in Supercross, and he's starting to come around in motocross. Hopefully he can make it back for Super Motocross, but that's definitely up in the air at this point. Thankfully, there's no other major new injury reports to report in the 250 class, but just so we don't forget about all the guys that are injured and out, I'm just going to go ahead and name them off. They're still suffering from their same injuries. So we have Austin Forkner, Seth Hammaker, Cameron McAdoo, Maximus Volan, RJ Hampshire, Guillaume Perez, Michael Moseman, Styles Robertson, Nate Thrasher, and Jeremy Martin. Now, I would pretty much expect all of those guys to be sitting out the remainder of the season, with the exception of maybe RJ Hampshire. It sounded like maybe we would see Austin Forkner back at some point, but now he did announce that he just had brain surgery, so kind of crazy to see that. We actually have a full story on our channel right now about Austin, from his childhood all the way through his current state. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to check that out. It's a pretty cool story. It's only about 20 minutes long, so definitely worth a watch if you're interested. I'll go ahead and throw the link in the description for that video. But as I was saying, pretty much everyone on that list is probably going to be out for the rest of the season. Moving on to the 450 class, thankfully we do have Garrett Marchbanks, who is returning this weekend. So Garrett suffered a pretty unfortunate injury in press day at Paula at the season opener. I think we all saw that. Really unfortunate to see that. Now, we do know Garrett rode the 450 pretty well outdoors last season. He's going to have his work cut out for him to try to score enough points to get in the top 20 at this point, as the season is nearing a close. We're coming up on halfway here soon. Now, if he rides to his full potential, I do think he could possibly get in that top 20 in the SMX points. So keep an eye on Garrett. He's definitely going to be pushing to try to get those points. But either way, he's back with us this weekend. Another guy who will be racing with us this weekend who is injured but not necessarily returning from injury is going to be Justin Barcia. So Justin already had a pretty messed up knee, and it sounds like he did some damage to his MCL at the last round, and he even released 2 tendons from his bone in the knee. So definitely some gnarly stuff going on out there. Not sure exactly how he's going to be able to get through the weekend. Southwick is definitely not the track to be riding with knee problems. But Justin has been pretty vocal that he loves the track and he's going to still go out there and send it. So we'll have to keep an eye on Justin. If he's not riding to his full potential, just keep in mind that he is pretty beat up out there. As far as the rest of the 450 class injuries, both Cooper Webb and Ken Roxon are back on the bike. Look for them to be returning soon. I would not be surprised to see either one of them line up at Redbud. And I think we could even see Eli Tomac line up at Redbud. That still remains to be seen. He could be a little bit more quiet about his recovery process. Now, none of these guys are going to be lining up this weekend, but they are back on the bike. As far as Roxon and Webb, we're not really sure exactly what's going on with Tomac, but I do expect all 3 of them to return at some point. And then we also have Derek Drake, who is still recovering, and it sounds like he could also potentially come back by the end of the season. Moving on to some of our 250 storylines that we need to talk about. The biggest one is probably going to be that Max Anstie is going to be lining up this weekend for the Star Racing Yamaha team. So it didn't exactly come out of nowhere. We kind of knew this is where he was headed after Supercross, but it is pretty cool to get to see him racing pro motocross and lining up at Southwick, where he could potentially have an advantage in the sand. The team did rent out the track, and it sounds like Max was definitely out there ripping, so we'll have to keep an eye on Max. I don't expect him to necessarily compete for the moto wins, but I definitely think it's something he's capable of. He's definitely going to need a start, and there's definitely some good depth to the field. But keep an eye out for Max and do not underestimate him, but also don't overhype him, just keep an eye on him. Another thing I really want to draw your guys' attention to is going to be Joey Savatgy. So Joey is on that Triumph this year. We've seen him had some really good speed at times. Now, one thing Joey was pretty vocal about that was cool for him is that by having to sit out the Supercross season since he was on a 250 and unable to compete in the 250 Supercross class, he ended up spending over a month working specifically on sand tracks because he felt like he was really lacking in that area. So while Joey did openly admit that he's not very good in the sand, he spent an extreme amount of time concentrating just on sand riding and his technique, so I'm curious to see if that pays off for him. If he can get a good start, he definitely has the speed, and if he really did correct his sand technique, he could be up there in the podium positions. So he's had some tough luck this season. It's time for him to try to turn it around, and this could be the chance for him to do it. Next guy I want to talk about is going to be Kyle Webster. So Kyle Webster is an Australian motocross racer. He's currently leading the Australian MX1 Championship. He's coming over to race for the Firepower Honda team, the one that Max Anstie essentially just left. And he's going to be racing with us for the next 2 rounds. So he's going to be racing Southwick and Redbud. So it's hard to say exactly where he'll stack up, but he's definitely got some talent and he could get in there as well. One last storyline I want to draw your guys' attention to is going to be Ty Masterpool. So Ty obviously just came off of his amazing overall win last round, and now he's coming into Southwick, which is a pretty different track, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to translate. He did have an off week, which was probably kind of a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that he was able to continue testing and learning that bike because he barely just jumped on it at the start of the season. However, it doesn't quite feel the same carrying that momentum through 2 weeks as it does when you just have one. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to translate, but I think if Ty can at least get in the top 5 this weekend, which I do believe is in the realm of possibilities, he could actually carry that momentum and continue to contend for moto wins throughout the rest of the season. Definitely going to be difficult, and I'm not saying he can't get a moto win this weekend, but I do think this is not his best track that's most well suited for him. What I am saying though is if he can get through Southwick with some confidence still, look for him to continue building in Redbud, and if anything, he might continue to be a podium threat as we go through the rest of the season. Another thing I'd like to draw your attention to is that in the 450 class, Dylan Ferrandis has been struggling a little bit when you consider that he is a past champion, and he was saying that he left the bike. So it sounds like in the off weekend they did some motor testing and they were able to find a way to get the motor to have some more power, which is something he was looking for. So if that's true and he was down on power, that could really be helpful to him, but it could just also be him trying to mentally find a way to give himself a boost, and it could be nothing. Now keep your eye out for Dylan. If he's able to be a little bit up more towards the front, then maybe that motor change really did help. But honestly, if he can't start getting some good results, I don't think he's having a whole lot of fun out there, and I'm not sure that we're going to see him back next season unless he can start contending for at least some moto podiums. Alright, next up we're going to just run through the top 5 in points in each of the classes. So obviously at the top of the 250 class right now, we have Hayden Deegan, and then behind him we have Chance Hymas, who is now 32 points back, well over a moto score behind. Then behind Chance, we actually have Tom Vial, who's another 6 points behind Chance, so 38 back. And then behind him, we have Levi Kitchen, ironically 47 points behind. And then behind Levi, we have Joe Shimoda, who is 55 points back. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Ty Masterpool in 6th, all the way up to 6th after a rough start to the season, who is 75 points back. So interesting to see him move that far up in the points already. And then moving on to the 450 class, at the top for at least one more week, we have Hunter Lawrence, and then behind him, we still have Chase Sexton, who is 6 points back, and then we have Jet Lawrence, who is 8 points back. Then behind him, we have Justin Cooper, all the way 28 points back, and then AP rounding out the top 5, 37 points back. So bringing it back to the 250 class at the top with Hayden Deegan, I think that Hayden could still do really well this weekend. He did struggle here at Southwick a little bit last year, but obviously he's a completely changed rider this season. He's been extremely dominant and had by far the fastest laps and been the fastest guy out there, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. I really don't think he needs to come out here and win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does. He already has over 1 moto points lead on everybody else, so really all he needs to do is get through here without any major mistakes or a catastrophic bike failure, which is somewhat common on a sandy track like this. So really all he needs to do is just ride smart and get a top 5, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him sending it and getting the win. As far as Chance Hymas, he just needs to keep doing what he's doing and getting good starts and getting in that top 5. Definitely needs to be careful with that knee, try not to dab his leg in any of the corners. Tom Vial absolutely needs to strike right now. This is probably his best track. He won here last year, and if he's going to have any chance at getting back in this title fight, he needs to make up quite a bit of points this weekend, and if he doesn't, then this championship is pretty much over unless Hayden Deegan ends up getting hurt or having a major DNF or something like that. As far as Levi Kitchen, I'm not really sure what to say about him. Just keep an eye on him, and if he's outside the top 5, just going to be a question mark really. Hopefully he can be back in the top 5. That'd be really cool to see. But as far as right now, not really sure what to think about him. Yoshimoto seems like he's coming on strong. He did get a moto win here last year, so definitely look for him to ride well. He could also be someone who's contending for the race win if everything goes right. He's going to need a good start. He hasn't had a lot of those, so if he can get a good start, definitely keep your eye on Joe. And as far as Ty, I pretty much already said what he needs to do this weekend, so keep an eye on him. Hopefully he can be at least in the top 10 and closer to the top 5. As far as the 450 class, Hunter just needs to do his thing. If he can at least get second in both the motos, then he will retain the points lead. So if he could go 2-2, regardless of what Jet does, he will at least hold the points lead for one more round. So definitely needs to at least try to get in there and do that. But definitely you want to try to disrupt Jet in any way that you can and try to get some moto wins. Definitely going to be hard to do. Jet is very good at Southwick and he's good at everything everywhere he goes. As far as Chase Sexton, Chase needs to get in there and he needs to go get some moto wins. He's ahead of Jet in the points right now, but only 2 points ahead of him. So if he wants to stay ahead of him, he's going to have to beat him. Simple as that. He needs to go win some motos. So he's going to need to get a really good start, which is something he has not done. He hasn't really started in front of these Honda boys at all this season. So hopefully he can do that and make things interesting. As far as Jet goes, he doesn't need to do anything but what he always does. Just get out there, get a good start, get in clean air, and just flow. He finds absolutely crazy lines, and Southwick is the place that is built for him. He finds all kinds of weird ways to jump over braking bumps, jump into turns, jump out of turns. So keep an eye on those crazy lines that Jet is going to be doing. And then as far as Justin Cooper goes, it's kind of hard to say exactly what he needs to do. He could potentially be fighting for a ride next year. We're not sure if he's going to be able to stay with Star Yamaha or go somewhere else. But right now he's just locked in right outside that top 3. He's clearly better than everybody else, but not quite a consistent podium guy. So hopefully he can just ride smooth, ride smart, and stay in there. And then as far as AP, he's just doing exactly what he did last year. Hit all the rounds, score all the points, don't make any mistakes, don't do anything flashy. He's kind of almost like Ryan Dungey, but just a totally different personality. But as far as on the bike, he's smooth, he's fast, and he's fun to watch. As far as the track itself, Southwick is in eastern Massachusetts, so weather's not going to be too bad. It's going to be a high of 77. As previously mentioned, Southwick is pretty much an all sand track, so it's pretty gnarly, not nearly as many jumps as some of the other tracks on the circuit, but don't let that fool you, the track is going to be gnarly. But that's going to go ahead and do it for the race day updates video, guys. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the helmet giveaway information right here. What's up everyone, we're giving away a brand new Fly Formula helmet. I personally use this helmet and I love it. It's super safe, it's got lots of cool features, like the little bendy visor that also breaks away really well. It also has the Rheon technology that is very good at absorbing energy when you crash. It's easy and free to enter. If you're viewing on Instagram, just click the link in the bio, and if you're viewing on YouTube, click the link in the description. Everything is pretty straightforward, and we're going to be running this giveaway all the way till the end of Pro Motocross. After the season finale in Ironman, we'll draw one lucky winner, so enter now before it's too late. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and get entered into that. And as I was saying, if you guys stuck around for the whole video, it really means a lot. Thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey as I grow the channel. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you in the next video.